Hi everyone, welcome. So every week at the same time, we have our wellness class. Okay, so it's either about the essential oils um, and what it can do, or it's about the physical body or health issue and what oils and health products that we can use for it. So either way, it's a wellness Wednesday for those people on the other side of the world, and for us in the US, it's a Tuesday night. Okay, Tuesday 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's a set time if you want to put that on your calendar, and whatever it is in your time zone, it'll show up on your phone. Okay, so welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about ears. So it's important to understand ear health. Okay, sometimes we get other things take more attention and priority, and that's all right. But yeah, we have earaches and tinnitus, and then we have the ringing and aches and things. So it's important to just know what to do. This information can be found in this book, Living a Natural Wellness Lifestyle with Faith book. And I have great news for you guys. All my books are updated now. I'm working really hard. Yeah, in the middle of moving. So yay. So there you go. You can find it on Lulu, Amazon, Kindle. All right. So the objective of tonight is to help you be aware of what ear issues are about, and then learn how to solve them. Um, I met a lady maybe about 10 years ago in Australia after our presentation workshop. She came up and she says, "Hey, what oils for earaches?" And I told her which oils that I recommend. And then I said also that person, whoever that person is, need to adopt the belief that they can hear love. And this lady, her husband looks at her and like rolls his eyes. And he looks at me and I look at her and I'm like, okay, this is her. And she's like, I don't know why. Every time he tells me he loves me, I just don't know. I don't believe it. And he's like, it's been like that all our marriage, Jade. I'm like, well, okay. Well, your ears are telling you something. It's hurting on and off. Like, yeah, there's something that you need to work on. Okay. So it's really interesting. Our body is just perfect, and or yeah, if it's plugged or it needs to be popped or something, we just need to resolve that. It's just one of the options, but sometimes it's the actual real root issue, right? My other friend, she's at the end of our session, she's like, okay, just one more question. My nephew, he has earaches a lot, and he's just this 6-year-old or whatever. And I said, well, here's some oils I can use. And I said, just tell your nephew that he can hear love. And she was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. And she explained to me that his parents always tells him that he's a naughty boy. So even though kids are little, maybe they don't understand too much, but they understand the energy behind it. Okay, so this kind of gives us an opportunity to change. Okay, so anybody have any questions, or if you want to share anything, go ahead and use the chat there. Okay. All right, it's just a reminder every time I do this class, I just want people to understand that we're shooting for wholeness. I don't like shallowness because I feel like I don't get to the root, and I really don't help people fully and permanently if I do. So I like people to understand that we're, going down to the depths and understanding health at that level, okay, the root level. So we're going for wholeness, and it's not just symptom managing, okay, it's not pain management either. So, when people say, hey, earaches help me, my goal isn't to just help them feel better so that they don't have any pains anymore. It's not an absence of pain healing. I want it to be a more permanent change, healing of the heart, okay? So what I want you to understand is we're always going to talk about the divine lessons of love, okay? That's the question we ask ourselves all the time. Anytime you have any sort of ailment or discomfort, ask yourself, what is that lesson of love that I need to learn? And then learn it quickly. And then your physical body just feels realigned again, and the healing is a natural byproduct, okay, or result. So total alignment of mind, body, and spirit is our goal here, because we are aligning to our divine source and our divine path, where we're meant to be, what we're meant to do. So I feel like it's great because it helps us like course correct and stay on the right path. Trust your body, please. Sometimes people believe that their body is broken or, is deficient or defective somehow. Trust that it knows what it's doing. It's giving you lots of clues. Okay, when our heart is connected to God, that heart compass will guide us to the healing that we need. Okay, and there's plenty of scriptures that talk about thy faith has made thee whole. Go in peace. That's the whole idea of what we're trying to do here. Okay, and there's plenty of these videos here that we have. So go ahead and search on the YouTube channel. Okay, right. So this is part of the literal language of the body. What that means is the body kind of tells us where we need to change. And so when we kind of force it to do something, that is against what it wants, it can resist. And it resists in a way where you have discomfort or whatever. And so there's your clue that something needs to change there. Okay. We have the power to command the elements. So if we command it in a negative way, like I don't feel love, right? I hate my body, then your body will respond accordingly because you're commanding it like that. Or you can learn to read the literal language of the body and, work with your body. I had a friend recently tell me how she feels like she's taking all this skill for granted now, because in the past she would wake up and she'd be like, what's wrong with me? And she said that morning she had a heart pains and she thought, oh my gosh, am I having a heart attack? What's going on? And then she just muscle tested the emotions of the heart and she resolved it and it went away. So, a lot of our friends here on the call, they've had those experiences and I'm sure they can share lots and lots of stories there. Okay, so this information is that in my books, and you can, learn how to read your body that way and learn how to read, your children and your husband, so that you could help them out, right? I have a friend in Cambodia and his mate had back problems and he turned to his wife and he's like, oh, a financial worry. And she's like, yeah, probably what it is. Okay, so here is the ear mapping or reflexology diagram. You don't have to memorize it all. And, the little parts are just itty bitty. And sometimes everybody has different shaped ear. And so sometimes we don't know exactly which point it is. Okay. I would just put it all over. Okay. And just squeeze it or pinch the area that you feel like is close enough to where you need to resolve your issues. Okay. So sometimes maybe an organ problem or something else inside of you is telling you something and it might just manifest on your ears. Okay, so just consider that too. Like my friend, she had like a bleeding front teeth on the bottom and I asked her about a uterus and she's like, oh, yes, I just had surgery to remove it last month. And, then we had to talk about the emotions of the uterus. Okay. So there you go. Take note of that, guys. All right, so let's start with the simpler solution, the essential oils. So basil and lavender is the first go-to and you can use it topically. So I would put a drop of basil and a drop of lavender in my palms and then maybe a couple of drops of coconut oil, mix it together and just apply it to the ears and in the backbone behind the ears if I'm experiencing like some sort of earache. Okay, and then down your neck, right, all the way down. Sometimes people have like ringing in the ears or tinnitus. You can apply basil and lavender the same way. And if you want to layer on magnolia, rose, and on guard, that's good too. Okay, but basil and lavender is my go-to. sometimes people like to put a couple of drops of each on a cotton ball, and then you can just tape the cotton ball just inside your ear like that, so that you just get a little bit of that oil that's going to seep into your ears, over the next hour or so. That might help too. Okay, just consider that. So I remember a story very vividly when I was living in Ohio about 12 years ago. There was a lady, she said the son had earaches, and it was a whole year problem. She said he missed so much school, and she had to go to the doctors, and eventually they had to put tubes in. And it's just all this time off work, all this pain that her son had to go through.
Just order
And
for yourself and not worry about carrying anyone else.
mhm. So, anyways, she discovered doTERRA the year after. And then I told her about basil and lavender. Anyway, she was like, what? It worked so well, when she tried it on her son. And she said, Jade, where were you a year ago? you know, she said it's so much money, so much time away, and so much pain for her son. And here is a really simple solution. Right. So remember that, guys, basil and lavender. And then we also have magnolia, rose, and on guard. Just try those. But most of the time, basil and lavender will do the job. Okay. Any questions, comments, or stories you want to share, guys? Alrighty. Okay, so let's talk about ear support on the emotional and spiritual level. And so this is from the Living a Natural Wellness Lifestyle with Faith book. Okay. So ear issues relate to your capacity to hear love. It's on the subconscious, Do you hear love in your home? Okay, kids, if parents are fighting, they might have earaches. If there's just negative words being spoken. Okay. The other thing too is, can you hear Heavenly Father's loving words when you pray? Right. And do you speak lovingly to yourself and others? So sometimes people's hearing might diminish. Okay. Because they hear too many negative things about themselves, or they speak poorly about themselves. Okay. So I think wax buildup, if you muscle test, Amanda, it could be very similar. Yeah, it could be a way of like blocking it as well, blocking the hearing. Yeah. So people hear what they want to hear based on their core values and thoughts. Do you want to clarify what you do believe or what you're thinking? So, the last couple of weeks, I've been helping people just kind of write down, clearly identify their core values and their standards. Sometimes we think we know, sometimes we have an idea, but then we also have conflicting ones that are inherited that we're not aware of, that can sabotage what we want to do. Okay, say you want to, come on time to something, but you're always late. So, we have this value of punctuality, of, being, organized, but then there's other values of, I don't have enough time, so I need to be super productive and, squeeze everything in. And so therefore I put too many things ahead and then I come late, So whatever it is, it could be anything, but you want to look at your behavior and then clearly identify some of the core thoughts and beliefs, okay? So do you believe that God is in the details of your life, constantly and gently guiding you forward? The health of your ears and your hearing may quickly improve when you choose to adopt more positive, loving, core beliefs and thoughts. Yeah, I have some friends that they can't even hear what they're saying about themselves, right? They're like telling people stuff, and I'm like, well, you just said this about yourself. And she's like, really, I did? and it's like, yeah, just maybe write it down. And, that's all these negative thoughts about yourself. Okay. All right. So if you have negative core beliefs and thoughts, you may find that you filter out the positive things and listen only to the negative things. Okay. So sometimes people share something in, in love and in happiness or whatever, but then you misinterpret. Okay. So we can easily misinterpret people's words when we are insecure. Okay, feeling hurt and offended are clues and you haven't secured a strong testimony in our divine nature and identity. One time I was like telling a lady, hey, you remind me of this beautiful children's story. And then she's like, well, it's probably this and this and this, in a negative tone. And I was taken aback. I'm like, it is the cutest story. I'm just saying that you're cute, but she just took it wrong. And so people like that, you can get nervous because you're like, I never know when they will turn my words around and see it negatively when I didn't even mean that. Right. And so it's hard to be around, because you're in danger of being misinterpreted and misunderstood. Okay. So when we are secure in ourselves and clear on our divine potentials, we are no longer moved by other people's negative opinions of us. Okay. Furthermore, we easily give other people the benefit of the doubt and assume that they mean well when they speak to us. When your heart is filled with divine love, it is easier to be loving and encouraging to others. Yeah. So, there's times that I think people may say negative things, but I didn't catch the drift. And I think that's fine. It's better that you err on the side of, thinking that they're good and kind than, believing that they're not. Okay. And sometimes that helps them change as well. Can your ears discern the difference between the loving voice of God and the voice of evil spirits? Okay, patiently listen to the still small voice of God. In the stillness of the morning, you may hear his voice. God's voice leaves you feeling peace, power, and purpose. The voices of evil spirits leave you feeling confused, scared, negative, and doubtful. Have you decided to adhere to the inspired teachings and wisdom of God? Are you listening to God's messengers as they come your way? Sometimes it's obvious, but we may not make that intentional decision yet. And, so here's your opportunity, sometimes just write it down. I choose to hear God. I am good at discerning evil spirits or negative voices in my head. Okay. So it's not my voice and it's all me. It's, I'm letting, Satan talk. And, when I recognize it, I say, hey, no, I rebuke it. Sometimes when you own it and you think that's your voice as well, okay, then you're like, oh, it's so loud in here, and it's all me. No, it may not be all you. Okay. All right. Remember, you are deeply loved by God. You are great. You are of great value and worth to him. God finds many ways to help you awaken to your divine identity and help you feel his love for you. While listening to good music, you may hear the loving voice of God. Choose to listen to music that continues to uplift your soul. Stay connected to and keep praising your heavenly parents. So, some negative lyrics or just bad vibrations in music can affect you. So like Dr. Masaru with the hidden messages of water, he said heavy metals, cause the crystals to form poorly. Okay, so be aware of that. Be aware of how your heart feels. If you're a parent, consider what culture you are creating in your home. Do your children hear you praise and thank God for your blessings? Do your children hear kind, encouraging, and loving words spoken in the home? Children may have earaches when their parents are arguing or speaking negatively to them or around them. So create a culture where all in the home can hear love and hear God. Yeah. So is the TV always on? We have loud music always playing. sometimes I have friends that say that they have all the TVs and all the rooms on, and it's just so loud in their home. Do we just teach our children to speak kindly to each other and about each other? Right. And I've had people, say, oh, that's kind of fake. Who doesn't fight? Who doesn't argue? Well, believe me, we don't have to argue. We can, disagree on things. We don't have to fight. Right. And if you have generations and generations of people who learn how to be civil to one another, that's great. The Lord has asked us to be kind and loving, so therefore it's possible. Just because somebody grew up in a family where, bickering is the norm, it doesn't have to be the norm for you anymore. Okay. Any questions, any comments? Okay.
I have a little comment or question, Jade.
Mhm.
So I know that we're adults. It's just so hard to not get pulled into it sometimes. They're like, bickering doesn't have to be the norm. So if someone starts bickering, do you just walk away? Do you just say, I'm not going to argue with you, I love you too much? Like, how do you, because you just said it doesn't have to be the norm. So how do we shut that down? How do we make it not the norm?
Yeah. So are they trying to pick a fight with you? Are you saying that?
Absolutely. Like, yes. Or I really try not to fight, but I do get pulled in, or I feel like there's a part where you're just kind of like, hey, now it's about respect, or there's just, yeah, like just, and and then, if you walk away, then you're, I don't know, you're just, yeah. Tell me how to shut it down, Jade.
Yeah.
Because sorry, I was going to say, that song, there's beauty all around when there's love at home, and there's joy in every sound. And, that, like, yeah. So, yeah, it's one of those songs I'm like, I want that. But I mean, I've had love in my home, but we've never had all of that. We've never had roses bloom beneath our feet. But tell me how to shut it down.
Yeah. Okay. So what I feel is it's an inner work. So if you're conflicted within yourself and you have insecurity, and like sometimes the insecurity of mothers, like I need to be needed or whatever, I need to be validated and stuff. And so the kids know that card, and so they play that card against you. But if you know that you answer only to God, that you're confident, you know that you're a good mom, right? Then you can give this unconditional love. Not that you don't require something of people, but you have this unconditional love. And say that they're upset about something. Most of the time, the problem is not the problem. And if you understand the fundamental human needs, that's what they're asking for. So sometimes when people don't get attention, like positive, loving attention, they will do negative things to get negative attention rather than no attention at all. So I've taught kids in school that it looks like that's how they've been getting attention. I got the worst class in my school according to the principal, right? That's what she said. You've got the worst class. 7 of the boys were suspended for a week before I even came to school. So anyways, what happened was I just looked at each one of them and I'm like, what do you really need? What do you really want? Because it's not a fight about being right. It's not if I feel insecure, if I fight with you and I put you down, maybe I feel up, maybe I feel more important, or because I don't feel that love from you because you don't have love in your soul for yourself. Your cup is empty and I'm trying to fill my cup with you, right? I just want you to fill my cup. And because it's empty cup pointing to empty cup, it's like, I don't know what to do. They should go to God, of course, but that's what they're trying to do. So if you just pause and say, that person's starved for love and attention. So, within a couple of months of this class with my students and stuff, I just loved on them and I made them feel important because all the fundamental human needs need to be received. And maybe they can't go to God for that, or they don't know how to go to God yet, but I can fill up my cup with my own security, with that divine love, and then offer some of that to them. And I know that even kids that are teenagers that I teach, they may misbehave at home, but they don't misbehave here. Because to me, I have that strength, and it's not because I'm great. I grew up that way. You can ask my sister. We don't fight. My siblings, maybe we kind of, tugged a little bit on toys when we started a little, but my parents have taught us to love each other, right? It's kind of work it out. But because they have so much love there, we weren't fighting for this scarcity, right? There's just so much to go around, and they taught us to love each other. So what I want to say is basically be patient, work on yourself, because sometimes our insecurity, they want us to be put down, and we want to be pulled up, and then you want to be right and all of that. That's not the real problem. The real problem is just a lack of love and importance. And our other part of us, like we lack purpose, because we don't know how to contribute to the world yet, right? Then they're bored, really bored. So Gay Hendrickson talks about that. Sometimes people are just bored because things are going so well. They're like, we just need a little bit of drama here. In the subconscious, of course. Our subconscious doesn't make sense sometimes. So I've had 1 or 2 incidents where certain adults are like kind of rude, they're snappy, right? And then I come back with love. And if they snappy back, I don't jump in the pits with them. When you can speak kindly and politely and civilly, let's have a chat. Okay, work this out, right? And just be firm, right? So you're not walking away because you're angry. You say, I think you need some space. Just be confident. But if it triggers something in you, if you have a button that was pushed, then go into the other room and resolve it. She's disrespecting me. Or do I respect myself? Right?
Right.
I was just going to say, at first you started talking about like, if we have insecurities and all of that. I do agree with if you get triggered, Kim. I just had a situation, Kim, this morning where my daughter came home from lunch. This is my 25-year-old daughter, came home from lunch, and she was mad because I took 3 or 4 pair of her shoes that she's left in the front hall and in my living room, and I put them all in the middle of the walkway. And it didn't bother me. It didn't irritate me. I would put it there so she could not mistakenly not see it. And to kind of make a point, hey, this doesn't belong all over my house. Please put your stuff away. So I said, when you get a chance, please take care of these things. And she immediately started yelling at me. Why would you put them in the middle of the floor? But screaming this. Why would you put them there where everybody has to step over them? I only have a short amount of time for lunch. I don't have time to deal with that now. It's going to be there until I get back. I mean, just kept yelling at me. And I did exactly what Jade was saying. I stayed very calm. It actually didn't trigger me. I was really surprised that I didn't get triggered. I just smiled and I said, Ashlyn, please calm your voice. And she was like, again, rah, 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 rah. And I was like, Ashlyn, I'm not going to have a conversation with you if you're going to yell at me like that. And she just yelled again, well, that's just stupid. And da, 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 da. And I said, this conversation is over if you cannot talk to me like a normal adult. And she started to bark something else back, and I walked out of the room. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the right way to handle it, but I mean, it didn't trigger me. I didn't get angry. I left the stuff in the middle of the floor, and let her deal with it later. But sometimes if it is really helpful, if you do get triggered by something, to see, okay, what was that? What was it that irritated me or bothered me or upset me? What was that trigger? And then go do your self-work. But today, I didn't feel like I needed to. I was just like, hopefully she'll be calm enough later and she'll be able to see, yeah, that was really stupid for me to act that way or whatever. I don't know. But I just let it go. And it's hard sometimes to completely love someone unconditionally when they treat you or talk to you so badly. But
So
I think all of us have experienced that.
thank you for sharing that, Sierra. Can I share with you some things here? Yeah, so it's really good that you spoke kindly and calmly. But according to what I can see, um, her real problem isn't messiness. The real problem is the lack of self-love and the lack of love. And
Yep.
yourself. Okay, so you can put the shoes out all you want for years and years and years, but eventually your sweet girl is going to go to college and move away and stuff, right? So at this time in this chapter, give her what she needs, that love, right? And if you feel like she's disrespectful because she hasn't learned to respect herself, right? So go to that space first, right? Because, you know, that's just the surface stuff, the shoes in the middle of the way, because this whole house is your space. So she doesn't have that power. So she's always lost the power struggle when she was little. She would like to win some power things now as an adult.
Mhm.
How old she is, but she's lost,
Yep.
lost all her life. She still believes she's lost, and maybe she's interpreted all of those power losses as a lack of love. So in her heart, maybe she's starving for that love. That's it. And the shoes would be put away. She knows how to put away shoes. She knows how to clean her room. But all that
She
is,
does, but she just doesn't ever do it, ever.
yeah. But the thing is, the real need hasn't been satisfied. You know what I mean? And so what if she puts the shoes away? You know, there's going to be something else, and there's going to be something else that shows the hole in her heart. You know, so
And I don't know how, I mean, I don't know how we can love her any more than we already do. We let her abuse us. We let her use us. And I mean, she's been living in our home for more than 2.5 years now, free of charge, free of anything, free of responsibility. And I've had to let go of all the anger I initially felt because I felt like she was abusing us.
mhm,
And realize like she can't, like you just said, if she cannot even respect herself, how can
mhm,
she show other people respect? If she
yeah,
cannot even love herself,
mhm,
then how can she show others love?
yeah,
Um, and I don't know, I mean,
yeah,
we can't do more than we already do.
mhm,
So that I know of. I mean, I've done everything that I know how to do and everything I've been, working hard to do with her. And we have some amazing, wonderful spiritual moments. But it hasn't solved any of the other issues.
mhm,
So, I mean, she does want to now live on her own. She feels very confident that this is time now for her to move on and explore her life as an adult on her own. I
mhm.
know she's scared. I know she's scared to do it, but sorry, I didn't mean to get off on left subject, but I know the frustration that Kim is feeling because sometimes you can do everything in the world to stay calm and collected and just be, I'm not accepting, what you're talking or how you're talking to me right now. Please come back to me when you're ready to calm down and we can discuss things.
Mhm.
And sometimes it still doesn't work. They still, as you're walking away, they're screaming at you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and there could be, lots of evil spirits, and that's influencing them and all that to clear away. Do your best. Yeah, there's plenty behind that we could talk about. But yeah, let's just move on to this. So negative emotional energy to release, feeling unloved, unable to discern. So all of that screaming and stuff, is that really you, or is that, listening to the adversary in your head and repeating it to the world? So is there all this conflict in your own head? Okay. Refusing to hear. Okay. Fear of rejection. Right. So if anybody's fear of rejection, right, you can actually sense that because they're very anxious and on edge, right? Blocking people out. We actually need to connect to humans to have a Zion community, right? So blocking people out is not going to get us there. They're not going to get us closer. So there's something that we need to resolve, right? And get to the point where you're confident in yourself and then you're confident in others, okay? So tolerant. So tolerant of people's humanities. They're not going to do perfectly like your standard or whatever, are you okay with that? Okay, are you okay with you messing up? So sometimes if you're not okay with you making mistakes, then other people feel controlled as well. They feel that little bit of manipulation, whether you are aware of it or not. Okay, feeling impatient, right, is another thing that's kind of negative, right? And then hearing only negative things. So we're filtering all of the bad in and then the good out. Okay. So you can muscle test some of them. It could be generational. Okay. Could be a lot of things from, forever coming up. Okay. So we need to find out. Okay. And it could be, I've had friends that say, well, we were really loving parents. We're really kind. We're really great. And they feel bad. And I'm like, well, maybe it's generational. So it's just coming through this child and they misinterpret everything, and it just sounds just like grandma or great grandma, just seeing it differently than what it was intended. And then that invites you to sit down and just be very intentional and clarify. It could be because, somebody might believe I only hear bad things about myself. They're already setting the tone, setting the programming. I just want to block out the world's noise. So if they believe that there's just so much negativity out there and it's just so bad, and then they're a victim to it. Okay. Oh, I only hear criticism and judgments around me. Okay. So if we believe that, we'll have those negative emotions and energies. Okay. And nobody is listening to me. Right. So if we believe that what we have to say is not important and nobody cares, then you're kind of setting that intention out there. Okay. So the positive emotional energy is hearing love, right? Receiving love, belonging, tenderness, kindness, discerning. I prayed for the gift of discerning when I was 17. I was asked to take on a role that was, kind of overwhelming, and praise and encouragement and gratitude. I got praising as well. Okay. So those are the things that we want to intentionally adopt. Okay. And the words that we speak when we have these emotions, it will carry that energy forward. All right. So here's some affirmations. I hear love all around me. I enjoy heavenly voices. I am obedient to the divine promptings from God. Okay. So when God speaks, do you quickly obey? Okay, I hear encouraging words about myself. Okay. Any questions or comments or, stories?
Just this is really good for reflection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, sometimes people say, well, I'm old and I've got hearing problems, or I have, vision problems and all these things. I'm like, well, does it have to be? Do you know an old person that has perfect hearing? Yes, I do. Then, there might be something there that you need to change, to kind of improve that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, in the name of humility, sometimes people put themselves down and are not used to praising themselves or, being kind to themselves, right? And that's an issue as well. So humility is just being able to listen to God and being obedient. Okay, being willing to learn and change and surrender. It's not about putting yourself down. Okay, go ahead, Cheryl.
I was kind of hesitant to share this, but I don't know, something is prompting me to go ahead and do it. I recently had a really major ear issue. And it was a very layered issue, and it took me a long time to resolve it. And it started with an event that took place last November. And I think, I can see now looking back how it was causing a lot of past negative energies to come forward. I actually had been on medication because I wound up having a bad case of shingles, and I had been on an antiviral medication that, contributed as far as, that was one of the symptoms that could happen. But even after I went off of it, I was still having to deal with the issues and try and resolve it. But it went back to something that happened in my teenage years, plus a lot of inherited stuff. And it just, the experience I had just brought all of that full force, and intolerance was one of them, because I had an intolerance for a particular person that had really caused a lot of hurt and stuff for me when I was a teenager, that I had, was going to be seeing again for a while, and I hadn't seen for a while. But anyway, I'm going to get all tongue-tied here. Sorry about that. But it took me a good maybe 6 months of working on the energy that goes along with the ears, and feeling love, hearing love, and had to discuss it with, people in my life, what was happening with me, and letting them know that I was struggling to hear love, so that they could understand what I needed, so that they could actually help me as well. By just even by acknowledging that this was something that I was struggling with. And I eventually have resolved it, and it's been amazing to be able to not have that pressure in my ear, and not be able, because I still do have some hearing loss, but I'm working on that, and I feel like it's getting better all the time, as I am just intentional and conscious of the fact that I struggle with hearing love. And I know it's coming at me in a lot of different directions. I know it's inherited stuff too, because I'm constantly having to release those, but at least I'm very much aware of it. So when it's, when I see it present itself and I'm starting to struggle with my ears, I can be mindful and say, okay, what is it that what's going on here? Am I refusing to acknowledge that I am loved, that I'm a beloved child of God, or any of those things. So anyway, that's enough for me to say. I could go on about the details of this, but just so you know that I have the faith that this is such an accurate resolve for hearing or ear problems, because it's worked for me.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Yeah, and that was a very difficult time to watch Cheryl to kind of dig into her soul and figure out all of that. So it's effort, guys. But like Cheryl, you've come to the end of it, and then you learn so much, and then you have more courage. And I don't know if you realize, or you can see that in yourself, Cheryl, that you're so much more courageous, and you speak up more, and you're clearer on what you want now. I guess in the past, because the neglect as a child, or just the situations that you were in, we have to kind of re-give ourselves or reparent ourselves again, and now with just new skills, and hearing God, and hearing his words to comfort our souls again. And there's times, guys, that we're always scared when Heavenly Father tells us something, and we're scared and we don't want to hear it. That's another thing too. So yeah, go ahead, Sierra.
Am I unmuted? Okay. I was just gonna say, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing that. Just the words that you had a hard time hearing love made me think that maybe Ashlyn's having a hard time hearing love right now or feeling love, even though we're giving it to her. And then it made me think of Kim and just what we're both going through, that we might want to look at each one of those trials that we have with whoever it is, Kim, one of your children or husband or whatever, as an opportunity to say, hey, like, what's really bothering you? Like, what really annoys you about the fact that I put the shoes in the middle of the floor? Because that's not a big deal, you know? Like, what really made Ashlyn act the way that she did? Obviously, it wasn't just, you know, me moving her stuff around and that irritated her. There had to be something more to this. So maybe if we can look at those opportunities to dig a little bit deeper. I mean, we are doing a lot of self-work constantly now that we know how, and we need to give them the opportunity to do work for themselves and heal for themselves as well, whoever it is.
That's right.
So
Thank you so much, Sierra. So the language of love too. So, you know, if your language is, you know, service, acts of service, you know, and I know that you do that, you take the shirt off your back to anybody, you know, that's what you do. But, you know, what if your daughter's language of love is different? So, you know, just sit down and sometimes asking them will help them kind of start thinking along that path and maybe opening up to receiving. Yeah. So very good. There is, the good thing is it's solvable. And the good thing is you kind of have an idea of where to go, because we have all of these fundamental human needs that need to be filled. You want to go there first. And sometimes going there resolves everything. Right. So yeah. Anybody want to add to that or share? Okay. So guys, this stuff is an energy balancing with faith course. If you haven't taken it, go ahead and take that. It's a 7-week online self-guided course. We'll talk about God, we'll talk about scriptures. Okay, so if you're comfortable with that, you know, this is the website to go to and there's special discounts there. You have 10 weeks to finish the 7-week course, okay? Just do it in your own time, and you know, it's only about 2 to 3 hours a week. If you want to just kind of find some time each week, you'll get through it, right? But then you have the skills like these ladies are talking about, you know, Sierra and Kim, like, and Cheryl, they're just figuring out what is it that I'm, you know, not hearing, or is this me? Is this generational? Was it from this childhood event? You can actually find out. Okay, so that's a good thing, right? And as you peel layers and layers off, you get better and better. I mean, it's ugly sometimes because you're crying. You're like, oh my gosh, why would that happen? And why did that happen? And then you talk to God about it, and then you get a resolution. Then you feel good for a day, and then there's another thing that comes up. But then I promise you that it gets better, and you get more peace. And we have each other to kind of like poke and say, look in that corner. There's something there in that corner. Just keep going there. Okay, we're here for each other. I know it's not fun sometimes, but it's better than just sitting in that space, right? And just repeating that over and over. Okay, so let's do a little bit of an activity here. How do you feel about choosing to hear more love? You know, sometimes people are scared to choose to feel more love. How do you feel? You know? Hope you feel excited.
I'm ready.
Yes, ready, good.
Let's do it. Bring it on. Bring on the love, the
Yep.
self-love,
Mhm.
the honor, the fulfillment. Bring it all on.
Yes, good. Say yes to that.
So something that you just reminded me of when you talked about like love types, or how you receive love might be totally different than how you give love as
Yeah.
well. But anyway, and then you asking, are you ready, or how do you feel about choosing to hear more love?
Mhm.
I had to learn and remind myself consistently about my husband's way that he gives love, even though it's not the way I like to receive love. Because I wasn't feeling the amount of love that he was offering me or giving me, because he's offering it in a way that I don't care about. And I had to, kind of teach him, hey, I love that you did that. Obviously, those kind of things need to be done. He likes spending, 4 to 5 hours in the yard cleaning up the yard for me. I could care less about whether the yard got raked or not. But he's like, look at all the work I did for you. No, that's like what needs to get done. And even I get out there and rake and help, do. So to me, wasn't like him showing me love, but to him, it totally was. So he is a kind of service, kind of love person too. So I had to remind him how I like to receive love is like cuddling up and spending more time together. And it has nothing to do, or like today we went and he got off work, he came home really quick, changed, and then we went and played pickleball together. Like I loved that. He spent time doing something fun with me. That was perfect. So what I've started doing is every time he does something like this, I kind of exaggerate, like this was extra special. Like this is what I really, really love. So he kind of starts learning how to love me.
Pointed out. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe you can receive his love the way he offers it too.
I've had to try to like remind myself. I have to do it consistently. Remind myself, oh, this is him showing me he loves me. Oh, thank you, honey. And telling him, I really do appreciate this, but can we spend some time together doing something? Yeah. No, I have to remind myself constantly.
Yeah, learn each other's languages and then adapt to. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, sometimes this means, choosing to hear love means you have to change the way you understand humility. So I'm not going to put myself down anymore. I'm just going to speak kindly because I want to hear more love from myself. And then because I speak kindly to myself, I'm able to receive other people's kindness. Yeah. What can you do to have a culture of speaking love in your home? With my husband and I, at the beginning of our marriage, we said, let's just say thank yous and pleases and be polite. Our kids write cards for each other and they hug and they kiss every night. We have to say goodnight to each other, by hugging and kissing and stuff, just kind of stuff that we want to do and develop. So it might be odd to other people, or some people like cringe because I never say I love you to my parents or to my siblings, because they haven't established that culture. But I'm like, this is important and we want to do it so that it's just part of us. It's just what we always do. Okay. So what about you guys?
I think for me, because I didn't really have this growing up, but for me is when we make mistakes that we acknowledge that we've made a mistake and we apologize. And, I don't know. I feel like that would have changed a lot in my childhood. If those intentional and unintentional hurts were acknowledged and when they were presented.
So
but really, also listening. Instead of listening to respond, listening to understand.
Yes, that's really good. Yep. So readily say, sorry, my bad, do it again. I won't do it again. Try to do better next time, and just really, listening as in understanding what that person is really saying. Without having to solve everything. I think that's awesome. Yeah, and there's different ways of loving, like we mentioned, there's a different language of love for everybody. Like my mum, she used to greet me when I come home with warm food, and she'll know when I'm home, right? So she'll look at the time and she'll hurry home from whatever, because I'll be walking home from school but she wants to be there to greet me. So I mentioned that to my husband one day, because sometimes I'll come home from a long day of travel and whatever, and I walk in the door and people are sitting there watching TV and then playing, and then like, hey, and I was thinking, I've been gone a long time, and I think this is from my childhood, but I'd like to be greeted. And so from then on, my husband tracks me, and when I'm like 5 minutes from home, he'll warm up something, and then the garage door will like roll open. And I know it's silly, but I'm like, oh, good. And then so they come to the door and they run over and give me hugs and pause the TV or whatever. And it's just greeting each other. So that's just my way. Don't have to adopt that, guys. But I was just thinking, this is how I'd like to do it, because I try to do that to my friends and to my family. So yeah.
I love that, Jade. I was actually, before you said that, that was one of the things I was thinking about. What do we do? And we always greet each other when we come in the door. It's like, hey, even if it's just, hey, how was your day? Or, just acknowledging.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's so nice. And I
make
tell
them, yeah, I was just going to say, make everyone who walks, all your family who walks through the door feel important. Like you're so happy to see them. Yes.
Yeah, I love that, because I remember as a child coming home from school and I'm like, oh, that was hard. And I see my parents, and my parents are like, you're the best thing in the world. Welcome home, kind of thing. And I just felt like, oh, that makes my life so much better. And whatever food she's serving, I'm like, I'm so happy. And it's great. Again, yeah. Go ahead, Sierra.
Even though my kids are all grown, we still do have two at home. When they were young, we used to always tuck the kids in. We used to read to them and everything, and tuck them in. So we probably read to them even in middle school. We would read together. But we stopped doing that probably, second or third year of middle school. But one of the things we still do, it's kind of, I don't know if anybody here knows what John Boy is. Good night, John Boy. Anyway, it's this TV show.
The Waltons.
Yeah, the Waltons. Okay, our house sounds like that at night. It's like, it's just so funny. Sometimes we would even say that just for fun. Good night, John Boy, because everybody was like, good night, Darian. Good night, Ashlyn. Good night, Tristan. And we have continued, even though Tristan's not home anymore, we continue to do that. We always tell each other good night. And one of the things that I really love, it was interesting when Ashlyn came home from her mission, and then she came back from college. She said, well, what time do I have to be in? And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, what's my curfew? And I was like, honey, you're an adult now. You don't have a curfew. But it would be really nice for you to text me and let me know that you're safe, or that, you're on your way home or something like that. So I know that you're safe and you're taken care of. And even the other night, she went somewhere with some church friends. I can't remember what she was doing, but anyway, they didn't get home until like 10:35, which isn't even late, really. And she texted me. She's like, I made it home. And we were, of course, already in bed, but it was just such a sweet thing for her to do. And, they still do that. And I think it's really, really, that's loving to me. That's something that's very loving and considerate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then, explaining that to her, like, that was perfect. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I love that, we still read scriptures together, and pray together, and then pray for each other. So even in my Bible study in the morning, I ask the kids, who's got exams today? Who's got assignments? Who's got stuff? And so they're like, you, okay. So the person that's going to say prayer is going to pray and for those people, right? And bless so-and-so that they do well in their exam or whatever. That shows love. It shows the consideration that we were talking about just now. Also, like making each other's favorite food or saving food for each other. like we say to each other, like if you're the last one that's going to dish up whatever's left over, remember to say this. Hey guys, is it okay that I eat the last bit of this, whatever? Just kind of be considerate that way. That's showing signs of love. Just as a habit. And when that was when the kids were little, just now it's a habit. It's just a consideration. Even when they're little, they say when mommy's friends come, you want to come downstairs or whatever and say hi to them. And this is how you say hi. You say, hello, my name is Genevieve. Hi, my name is Emily. And shake their hands or give them a hug, okay? And so I'm like, let's practice now. Pretend I'm a person, my mom's friend, and I'm walking in the house, and mom's like talking to my friend. And when you come downstairs, you say hi. So just stuff like that to say, you love mommy and you love my friends, and just respectful. And just teaching that very specifically. Okay, so what do you feel about being able to hear God's loving words? So
Honored.
people have a hard time hearing God, right? Yeah. Feeling honored, good. What do you feel about being able to hear God?
I just feel like it's the greatest blessing in the world. I mean, I don't get answers to every single prayer in a way that I hope or want, or sometimes even an answer at all, or maybe I just didn't understand the answer, that I was given an answer, but sometimes the answers are so blatantly obvious. And sometimes it's not even answers to prayers. Sometimes like it's a lesson that I needed to learn, and it's like help in learning that lesson. And then sometimes you get tested right away, which happened to me recently. And honestly, it's just the most amazing, beautiful blessing to know that Heavenly Father's hand is active in your life. And to be able to see it is just, I don't know, it's indescribable.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Sarah. I can feel the spirit when you're speaking. For me, guys, I feel like if I'm talking to my friend, if I'm talking to my parents, I don't just hear one word, or I just don't feel fuzzy wuzzy, and that's it. And so if people are like, yeah, I prayed to God, and here's what I feel. I feel good. I'm like, there's more, and just choose to open your ears up to hear more. Now, I tell people there's degrees. That's not you're more worthy, that you're more valuable to him. It's just that you practice a muscle that you've refined. So you, like I said earlier, if you hear the adversary, you're left to feel a little bit of like this confusion and this darkness and this negativity. But if you're hearing God, then you're like, wait, I feel really inspired. I feel power. I feel peace, and I feel purpose. And you're like, oh, I'm going to lean into that some more. And as you lean into that some more, and you're praying, you're fasting, and you're reading scriptures, and whatever it is that you're doing, having more conversations with him, you're like, okay, that sounds good, Heavenly Father, but can you say that again? I just need to hear it better. And when you hear, and he repeats himself, and you're like, wait, I actually hear words. And then, oh, wait, actually I hear sentences. And then you get to the point where you're like, wow, I'm hearing sermons. Like, I gotta write this down. This is good, juicy stuff, right? So think of it as like a muscle that you're working on, right? Don't just stop with, oh, I feel good and warm inside. It must be positive. It must be a good answer. There's more. Okay, so that's what I am sharing with you here, right? What do you feel about being able to hear God's loving words? Like, I feel like I can hear God speaking to me. I can have conversations with him, right? So for some reason, sometimes people feel like they're not worthy, or they're not smart enough, or they're not intuitive enough, or whatever. And they're like, well, it's really hard. Well, if you think that way, it's going to be hard. But if you think, well, I have full access to my loving heavenly parents, and I can work up to the point where we're having these conversations, where the veil is thin, right? And we're having, a stronger relationship. Okay. Any comments there? Questions?
Yeah, I love that you shared all of that because my thought was like understanding or recognizing how he speaks to us
Mhm.
is really important. And so your explanation or examples of that is really powerful. I just lost my thought.
How he speaks to you, Debbie, you were saying
Yeah.
that.
How he's well, and I think the willingness to hear him. Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you don't believe that you can hear him, it's like it reminds me of the doubt not fear, fear not be believing.
Mhm.
Because if we don't believe it, then how are we going to be good receivers of
Mhm.
what he's offering?
Yeah.
So choosing to believe is within our power. It's in our realm, that power of agency that we have. So
Mhm.
we can, even if we're not totally sure at first, but I believe that I can hear him, makes it, opens the realm of possibility for it.
Yeah, I love that. So some things you said there reminded me, Debbie, we talked about how God sounds. So he's very direct,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like just short, direct commands, loving commands, right? And the adversary is question and doubt, right? Are you sure? Right? And then it's about you, like you're not good enough, right? So over here, it's like, go do. So it's not like, oh, I think you're strong enough and you're good enough. Why don't you try and do that? It's like, no, go do. And it's like,
Yeah.
because I know and I have confidence that you can do that, right?
Yeah.
And so you just go, ooh. So if you are quick to obey, I'll tell you your hormone levels will be more balanced too, because you're going to be responsive to the instructions. But once you obey one thing, he gives you the next thing, and he gives you the next instruction. And so you feel like your life has purpose, that you have direction. Okay. So sometimes the Lord doesn't give you an answer because you haven't obeyed what he asked you to do previously, right? And so that's where we need to go back and just go, hey, let me do what I'm prompted to do first.
The other thing that I find is if we're waiting for him to just tell us everything, one way to go or the other, that is a problem because he wants us to use our agency. He wants us to make decisions. And the easiest answer he can give us is a yes or a no. But we have to have a position first,
Yeah.
right? A position
Now
or
I
a
understand.
decision. So I think that's a really important principle to understand, is that it's okay if you're wrong, right? What you're really doing is seeking truth. So if you can make a decision, even if it's wrong,
Yep.
he can
Either way.
communicate with us whether it's truth or not.
Love that. So use your God-given intelligence, make a stand, okay, pick a side, and then decide on something, and you will know. And the good thing is when you do it out of pure intent, right? Even if it's kind of sort of the wrong path, he consecrates your efforts for good anyway. So he's like, well, you learned a lesson there. Let's turn around and, do something else. Yeah. But then, you know that you're trying really hard because of that pure intent in your heart. And you're not afraid and just sitting back and saying, I won't do anything until you tell me exactly how to do it. That's a slothful servant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Debbie. And thank you everyone for sharing and participating here. I'm going to stop the recording now. Guys, if you want some oils and you want to join our community, we're all open. So go ahead and contact us, okay?